Hey guys, so today I'm going to share with you how I made this super awesome ram skull out of leather using an EVA foam fabric. So this is going to be the first in a series of an outfit for my wasteland themed event that I'm going to go to next year. So the first thing I did was buy the EVA foam patterns from Kamui Cosplay, and I printed them out, cut them out, didn't print all of them, had to trace them on my tablet on a piece of paper and then cut those out. Then I copied it to just scraps of leather that I had laying around my house. So I only did one side and then flipped it and copied the reverse. So I traced it onto the leather and made sure I put my little labels on it, flipped it over, traced the reverse side so I had it right and left, and made sure I put my numbers on it also. So I'm using scrap because this is a wasteland outfit, so it's supposed to be, cheap with lots of reclaimed things. So I used a lot of leather scrap that I had just laying around the house. After I traced it, I cut her out. I used a thin leather on the horn, so I was able to use scissors, but on the thicker leather I used my fancy box cutter. The next part was kind of time consuming, so I used an awl and a little hammer, and I went through each pattern and lined them up, and I poked holes all the way through the leather with my awl. I kind of eyeballed it and lined them up and made the holes across from one another, so when I sewed the leather pieces together it would create the image that I wanted. This took forever, so after I poked all the holes, you can see the horns there. I actually used embroidery thread because that's what I had laying around my house. I used this ugly salmon color that I had lots of because it came from Goodwill. And I used a big embroidery needle, and I sewed them together. I did one side at a time, and I made sure to kind of loop over on the visible side so you could see the string. I just really wanted to see that. Obviously I didn't do it the way that you're supposed to sew leather. I didn't use the double loopy with two needles. I did it the lazy, wastelandy, gotta survive way. The no experience way. Let's be right. Also, during this adventure, I only stabbed myself in the thumb like 7 times. I should have got my thimble out, didn't feel like it. One time I completely shoved my thumb onto the needle. So make sure you have a leather or a thimble. Alright, and here is the completed horn. You can see all 3 pieces stitched together. The horn's a little floppy. I'll correct that later on, but you can see it takes the shape. So I started lining up each number, and I used the pattern to make sure I was putting the right things together. And you can see here I've got half of the left side. So here's a nice little video showing you how I did. The hardest part was the zygomatic, the cheek area. Because it curved strange and I didn't think it was going to fit right. So here's another way of how I was trying to poke my holes and make sure things were lining up where they were supposed to line up. It took a very long time and lots of patience, but things ended up curving and turning the way they were supposed to, even though I didn't do the appropriate bevels or what you're supposed to do. I did have to trim a couple things that were maybe too long, but other than that, I felt that they really took the shape they were meant to take. So here is what it looked like after I got everything together, both sides, and I got them all the pieces to attach. After that, I turned it over and I lined the stitching on the inside with Elmer's glue just to help hold things together and make sure the stitches were nice and tight. So after that, I took some strips of foam that I had laying around my house and I put them in the horns to help the horns keep their shapes. Then I attached the horns by poking 2 holes into each piece of leather and tying them down to the top of the skull. After that, she was done and I had to do my least favorite part, which was distressing. So the first thing I did was I went over it with some sandpaper to kind of weather the leather. This part you have to be careful because the sandpaper did weather the leather, but it also kind of damaged and frayed the yarn. So I did have to watch out and make sure I wasn't running the sandpaper over top of my my thread there. I also took my awl and just scraped it across it because I felt some of the sandpaper wasn't really giving me enough weathered look. Next thing I did was took some acrylic paints. I am not a painter, so please excuse my inabilities to paint, but I decided to add some weathering with different types of acrylics. I used a shimmery metallic gold, mixed that with orange and black to kind of give it a rusted look where the thread met, where the pieces of leather met. I mostly just did that on the horns. Then I took I call it poop brown. I used this really dark brown and I diluted it with water and I did a wash over all of the thread to make the thread look dirty and dark. So I was trying to make the piece like it's been around for a while, so it might have that wasteland look. So I darkened all the string with this wash brown acrylic. And then I also did my edges of my light brown leather just to make it look less smooth. And I kind of hit everything with that dark wash. I really wanted it to look dirty and old. Next thing I did is I took a light brown and I flicked it onto the skull to make it look more, like it's been hit by mud and dirt. The next thing I did was take a little bit of white and I brushed the white onto the highlights, so it kind of looks like I got hit with something, maybe like a little break here or there, and that's it for that. And then I was finished, and there's my lovely skull using a foam pattern. This is the first of a couple parts of me making my wasteland outfit. Check out the rest if you enjoy it. I'll see you next time.